Tonight, you'll hear from members of our academics team who will tell you all about our 4D academic curriculum, our project-based learning, and exciting course offerings. There will be time for question and answer towards the end of the event, and you can just pop those questions right into the chat box, and I will send them off to everyone who you'll hear from tonight. So to kick things off, I want to introduce you to Dr. Ben Priest.
Yeah, hi everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for this session of ToGather Tuesdays. My name is Ben Priest. I'm Kent Hill's Dean of Academics, and I'm an English teacher here. This is my 7th year at Kent Hill, and it's my 11th year overall in the independent school world. During my time at Kent Hill, I've been an English teacher and a department chair. I've coached a couple of sports. I've lived in and done residential duty in 2 of our boys' dorms. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything here. These days, I'm spending a lot of time thinking about Kent Hill's academic program and trying to make it the very best that it can be. And there's a phrase that I want to introduce right now, and hopefully I'll kind of swing back around and use this phrase a couple more times. And that phrase is prepared for anything. We really like this phrase. We think it's an encapsulation of what we're trying to do educationally at Kent Hill. We've also made it the name of one of the cornerstones of our bicentennial strategic plan. And I'm going to try to emphasize that throughout my talk. And I think you'll hear a little bit more from some of our other folks that confirm that as well. I'll also just say in a preliminary fashion that if you're interested in any of the things that we talk about tonight, I highly, highly encourage you to go and take a look at the Kent Hill website. We've spent a lot of time over the past year or so trying to make sure that our academic program is visible on the website. And to that end, you can now go on our website, and there are a whole series of department pages, so you can get a sense of who works here at Kent Hill, what they teach, what their backgrounds are. You can read all of the courses that we're currently offering, and you can see course descriptions. We've even got sample course syllabi and sample student work, so you can see basically what's going on in many of our classes. And I think you'll agree when you look at all of that stuff that we're really invested in creating as much variety as possible at Kent Hill, both in what we teach and in how we teach. So again, that idea of prepared for anything. That's become our mantra, in part because we take seriously this idea that what we're doing at Kent Hill is preparing our students for college, for higher education, but also for what comes after college. And so when you look at the classes that we're teaching, when you look at how we're teaching our classes, you can get a sense of the range of subjects and problems and themes that come up in our teaching. And so one example of that, if you look at the courses that are listed on our website and our curriculum guide and elsewhere, we have a range of offerings. We have things that are very, very traditional. We've got the kinds of math and history and science and English courses that you would see at basically any other college prep school, in part because, again, we really want to make sure that all of our students have a strong foundation before they head off to college. On the other hand, we also have some really, really creative elective offerings that reflect what we think are really important questions that really ought to be a part of any contemporary 21st century education. So I've got a little list here, and I'm just going to name a couple of them because I'm really proud of this. And we've spent a lot of time thinking about this kind of stuff. We've got several environmental studies courses right now that explore everything from climate change to many of the issues surrounding sustainability right here in Maine. These environmental studies classes get our kids outside, and so a lot of them are literally conducted outdoors as often as we can. It's getting a little bit cold for that now. In addition to that, we've got several business offerings that explore everything from economics to entrepreneurship to the world of investment and financial planning. And then we've got individual offerings on everything from the historical foundations of hip hop music, the history of feminist thought and feminist theory. We've got a class this year that explores the history of the United Nations and kind of thinks about the ways in which that institution is functioning in this 21st century world and trying to navigate a whole host of global problems. So again, a pretty diverse program. And I think along the same lines, we're pretty diverse in terms of how we teach our subjects as well. So right now, this week, this is our last week before our Thanksgiving vacation. We're going to go away for 9 days and then we're going to come back. And almost immediately, we're going to start preparing for a semester exam sequence. It's going to take us about 8 or 9 days total. It's going to involve review. It's going to involve teachers showing students how to study and how to review and how to prepare for big, difficult 2-hour exams. And then, of course, we'll do the exams themselves. And we're doing that specifically because we understand that our students are going to have to take big, complicated tests when they do the SAT, when they do the ACT, when they take AP exams, and of course, in their first, second year of college as well. On the other hand, we also are absolutely committed to what's sometimes called PBL, or project-based learning, which is a much more creative set of teaching strategies that involve students practicing free inquiry and following up on some points of curiosity and exerting plenty of choice in terms of how they present their learning to one another and to the larger Kensil community. And our goal is for every Kensil class to have at least one project-based learning unit by 2024, which is our bicentennial. So again, in both our classes, what we teach, and in our teaching strategies, how we teach, there's a nice blend of the traditional and the progressive. Again, because our big goal is to make sure that our students are prepared for anything. So again, just in closing, I would highly recommend that you take a look at our website. You get a sense of what kinds of classes we're offering. You can look at some samples of student work, get a sense of what our Kensil students are accomplishing here on the Hill. I'm happy to answer questions once we get to that segment of tonight's event. But for now, I'm going to introduce Martha Fortier, who is the division head of the humanities at Kensil. She's going to talk a little bit about those departments and what the study of English and social studies and world languages looks like at Kensil. So thanks.
Great, thank you, Ben. Hello to everybody. Hope you're staying cozy on this cool evening. Yeah. So I am new to Kensil. This is my first year. I come with about 20 years in education, largely teaching English and working as an English department chair in independent schools in Massachusetts. I am loving my first couple of months here, very impressed with the program and the people. In addition to being the head of humanities, I am continuing to teach English classes. I am an advisor, and I will coach the girls varsity tennis team in the fall. As Ben mentioned, the humanities division is made up of 3 departments. In world languages, we focus on French and Spanish, and those courses, will go from anywhere from beginner to advanced. I actually observed one today that was started with current events in France, and it was a dynamic classroom. Another department within humanities is the English department. Really starts with 9th and 10th grade classes, sort of fundamental skills going there that everybody takes. The freshman courses on nature of self, the sophomore courses on multicultural literature. From there, there's a lot of options that sort of Dr. Priest was talking about in our curriculum, and I love this part of it. So you get your fundamentals, and then you go to junior and senior year, and you have a lot of choices from American literature to global voices, global perspectives. You could do a year-long creative writing class, and there's some AP level classes as well called AP Literature and Comp. We hope to add another one next year. And there's a college writing seminar that actually Dr. Priest teaches that each time it's taught, there's a different focus. So you sort of get something interesting that you can study, and it's media this year with Ben, but you get your skills that you need for college as well. And then the final department is the social studies department, and that is really focused in history. 9th graders take a global studies seminar, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then other than taking a US history class, you get to choose any kind of courses that you take. And Ben mentioned many of them, lots of variety from the global history of the UN to context of hip hop to principles of investment to learning how entrepreneurship works. There's also psychology and AP Psychology, two popular classes, comparative government as well. So lots of options there. I love the idea that in all of these departments, we offer foundational courses and then a lot of options. So you get to sort of explore what you find interesting, and sort of not be stuck with sort of the same path. You'll have juniors and seniors, sometimes sophomores in your classes, depending, and it's all sort of interest-based. I love the variety of the classroom activities here. I'm sort of doing a survey this week of observing a bunch of classes, and I'm seeing everything from working at the board, creating symbols in an English class, to the start of writing a full original short story in creative writing, to a Kahoot. I don't know if you guys are playing Kahoot at school, but it's an online game reviewing for a US history test. So lots of variety there. I like how we engage with material, and we also have a variety of assessments. So in an American literature class, you might do a podcast that sort of explores a topic, and you identify your own audience and then create a podcast for that audience. I know in the world languages, they have fun with creating travel itineraries or brochures, right? Or long PowerPoints that sort of suggest where you would go in a certain country. My students are creating 15-second vocab videos and submitting them to a New York Times contest. So they're really excited about that. They've seen some models, and they're going to go off, and then we'll do an internal judgment as well, like contest as well. And then students in my class, Global Voices, Global Perspectives, are, we've just been sort of studying this idea of a single story, particularly about Africa. So to Ben's point, we're closing out the unit looking at Taylor Swift's, I believe, 2015 video called Wildest Dreams that was a little controversial. So my goal there is to take the thinking outside of the classroom, beyond the literature, to say, what conversation are you going to be having next year in college? What conversation are you having now in the dorm? Can you articulate your ideas about what we've sort of read in literature about a single story and apply it to Taylor Swift? So we just watched the video today, and they're going home and reading some criticism and some support of it. And then they will write a letter to someone of their choice and express their opinion. And we're mailing those letters. So we are actually going to address them, seal them, and send them wherever we need to, just to creative, authentic audience. Lastly, I just want to let you know about a freshman history class that a veteran teacher here has put together called Global Studies Seminar. The whole course is really project-based learning, and it is, after some sort of initial information for the students, each student creates his or her own fictional country, names it, creates a website for it, figures out what language is spoken, figures out the economy, what resources they have, where they are geographically, what their political system is, what their sort of expansion philosophy is. And then the teacher each week creates what he calls a global brief, and sort of replicates, mirrors real life, and sort of throws a curveball, right? Is there a migration issue? He'll announce that there's a war in a certain area, and create a need for countries to react, so that they can figure out whether they're going to participate in the war or not. And it's just this ongoing year-long experiment. It's outstanding, creating their own little globe and their own little world in miniature. And I think that that's probably the best example that we have of engagement in applying what you've learned, and really sort of understanding the forces at work there. So it's a rich division with a lot going on, and people sort of challenging themselves to come up with new ways to engage our students. So it's exciting. I will be available later as well if you have any questions, and I do urge you to hop on the website and see descriptions of these courses as well. At this point, I'd like to introduce my cohort in some way. the division head of STEAM, Jeff Munson, so he can tell you a little bit about that division.
Oh, hi, thank you for that. And good evening, everybody. A little hoarse tonight, but I think we can get through that. I'm Jeff Munson, and right now at the school, I hold the traditional Dean of Faculty role, but I'm also the head of the STEAM division, Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. And I've been at Kent Hill School for 21 years, primarily teaching physics and a little bit of robotics here and there. And occasionally I get pulled down to teach a math course, and have really enjoyed my time here. Before I came to Kent Hill School, I was in the Navy for 20 years. And all three of my children graduated from Kent Hill School, and they're all happy, functioning, normal adults with families, and they don't ask me for money. And that's pretty much all I could have ever hoped for them. And I totally give Kent Hill School credit for that, because I was in the Navy. I was never around. And their mom gets a lot of credit for that too. I'm really excited about STEAM. STEAM for us as a department, and adding in art beyond the traditional STEM model that most schools follow is relatively new for us. This is our third year of doing it. And as we've progressed into this year, we found that we've really had some cool opportunities to double down on our offerings, particularly in light of the strategic plan and the two cornerstones that we really pay attention to: prepared for anything, the academic cornerstone, and also grounded in Maine and connected to the world, which is already starting to bear fruit in a lot of the courses that we teach, and in some strategic partnerships that we're hoping to really bring to fruition sometime, and not in this next year, then the following year. But contacts are being made, and we're excited about a lot of the things that are happening right now. We do continue to have the traditional courses that you would expect in a high school science department, or a math department, or an art department. So there's biology through the advanced placement level. We have chemistry, again, through the advanced placement level. Our physics is a really wide variety of different physics courses. We have a physics with engineering course, which is a project-based learning course, not so much focused on the math as the actual design and why things happen course. We also have two college physics courses taught in conjunction with, or under the umbrella of the University of Maine dual enrollment program, and first year and a second year course, which are the ones I teach, and I really enjoy teaching those. Those are a lot of fun. There's also an astrophysics course, another project-based learning course, which explores pretty much the universe, starting on Earth and then moving into the solar system, and then they're playing around the galaxy right now, but they're also doing a satellite project. Each student has to design and model a satellite to perform some function, and then compute the orbital mechanics that would be involved in actually keeping that satellite floating around the Earth. They've also got a really cool ongoing project they do called SLEW, where they're able to program and take control of actual telescopes in Chile and plot missions and take pictures of what's going on in the heavens, track events that are coming by, comets or certain alignments of the planets. And they're just getting started in this year's missions right now, and having a really good time with that. Anatomy and physiology, I watched a brain dissection the other day. That was not up my alley at all, but they seem to be enjoying it. And we're continuing to try to expand those offerings. The arts department is amazing here, just from beginning painting and drawing to sculpturing and metalworking and jewelry making, ceramics, all the digital media courses that are taking place. Really, woodworking is phenomenal. Really getting a chance to bring the skills out that I think we all have at some level. And we start with all of our freshmen taking an art seminar to get their toes dipped into it. And then we just encourage as much design into the things that we do in science and tech, and trying to see where the art is in the world, and how that can not only be good for our soul, but also good for the way that we think about how we build things. Our environmental and sustainability programs continue to amaze me. Two new ones this year have been an environmental research and design course where they're actually using our 400-acre woods and taking a look at sustainable things, sustainable harvesting, taking a look at the species we have, taking a look at how things are growing, and then being able to go back and say, okay, well, let's harvest some of this and let's do something with it. And that's a project that can continue for a long, long time. They're working with the Maine state environmental agencies, and then we're actually plotting different areas of our forest and looking at things like fern growth and small tree growth, seeing how and this is a big data project over a lot of years, seeing what the effects of climate change are in our forest. And we're able to go back and take a look at things that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago within the forest, and then saying, okay, how is that affecting us now, and why are these things acting the way they are? We're finding some really interesting things that we did not know about our own forests, and that's been interesting for us. Schools are involved with other schools, sharing research about the environment, and that's on a global basis. And so all of these courses all tie together to try to find those things that are within the, I guess, the interest level of students as they come up. We used to be tracked in on a really good biology, chemistry, physics kind of baseline in science, and we've blown that up. And we're saying, you know what? If your passion is going to be in the environment, if your passion is going to be robotics, if your passion is going to be biology, you pick and choose those areas that you want to dive into, and then we build course structures and plans for the 4 years to kind of build to your passions. One thing I'm really excited about in STEAM are the global partnerships we've been taking a look at, and we've identified and have worked in the past with Jackson Laboratories out on the coast, starting to take a look at Bigelow Laboratories, potentially some work with How Industries on the robotics and computer side, and providing those opportunities for students to do internships, to do research here on campus, to go out and see the kind of research that's being done out in the field. I'm also really excited that we're going to be getting together tomorrow. Dr. Priest and I will get together along with the head of the science department and our technology and engineering specialist, and start writing the curriculum guide for next year's new offerings in technology and engineering: advanced robotics, robotics with coding and Arduino, AP computer science, which will be something we haven't taught in a long, long time, and seeing how all of that can play in with what are we doing in digital design, what are we doing with CAD. We've got some money to spend, and we are going to be spending that in enhancing our 3D printers, looking at other options such as laser carving, enhanced CNC routers, other things that we can be doing in order to take all of this design that we're doing and turn those into physical objects, and then taking a look at how do we improve those objects? What do we need? How do we make them better, and really expand on our maker spaces as they exist on campus? STEAM is kind of spread out all over the campus. It's hard to say there's, where are you going to go for STEAM? Well, we can go to the wood shop, we can go to the art studio, we can go to the Dunn Science Center, we can go down to the robotics center in the Learning Center. There's stuff happening everywhere, and I'm just really excited to be a part of it this year. And again, we'll have time for questions afterwards. And I have no idea how long I went because I forgot to start my timer, but I'm going to pass this off to Mary Keeley, who's been here a long time and is the director of our Learning Skills Center.
I haven't been here nearly as long as you, Jeff. I've only been here 10 years to year 20. My name is Mary Keeley. I'm the director of the Learning Center. Like Ben and everyone else here, I've worn many hats. I've lived in a boys' dorm. I've helped with field hockey. Jeff and I were part of student activities. I've had 3 daughters who have gone through school here. And my eldest actually I've met her husband here, and I have a grandchild, so I'm a grandma. So those are some exciting things in my life. But like everyone else, I'm really excited about this year and the students in our program. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the program in the Learning Center and what we do in here, but also talk about how we support students academically in all these other areas, because there's lots of wraparound in our school, making sure that students have what they need to be successful. So talking a little bit about the Learning Center, our goal in the Learning Center is to have a program that helps students understand themselves as learners and to gain the tools and skills that they need to be successful in the classroom, and also to know how to advocate for themselves and ask for the help that they need. We believe that asking for help is really a strength. And so we want to help students to identify who those people are that they can speak to. Every year, what we do is we create individual learning plans for our students. They're created right at the beginning of the year. We work with families, we work with teachers, we look at transcripts, and we work with the students. And what we do is we help to identify what the strengths are and what areas that students see as growth or other people see that these students need to grow in. And with this information, we help teachers understand each student's needs and help have those accommodations in the classroom. And we also work with our students learning, creating short and long-term goals. Students in the program meet with a learning specialist during a dedicated block in the academic day, which is really nice. So it's not an outside program that they have to find time. It's built right into their schedule. We have three levels of service. So our first one provides the most support. So it's 2 students with 1 teacher. So there's more one-on-one help that's given. The second level is a small group. So it's not going to be larger than 4 students. And the third level is a weekly meeting with a specialist. And this really is focused primarily on planning and how to advocate for what they need. So at the start of each week, students create a big picture, and this helps them plan and prioritize work for the week. This big picture doesn't only look at their schoolwork, it also looks at what's happening for their whole week. So if they have games, if we have events, if they need to see their college counselor, how are they going to use their flex blocks? What are their weekends are going to look like? Do they need to call grandma because it's her birthday? So all these things that are happening are really important to be looking at as a whole, because then we break it down. So for our students, especially ones that are playing athletics and are traveling a lot, they might have a game on Wednesday, and they know they're not going to get back until late. And they also have a paper due on Thursday and a test on Friday. So what we look at is how do we backtrack and help the students not snowball and feel prepared for those things that are coming up. So we do a lot with planning with the students. So during a Learning Center block, students work on executive function skills. So they're working on initiating work, planning, organizing, and monitoring the progress as they're going. We work on it with authentic tools such as note-taking and strategies like comprehension, reading, taking a test, or studying. And what I mean by authentic is that we don't make up work for the students to do. We take what they're doing in the classroom and teach them strategies. So if they have to take notes in a history class, we would sit down and we would maybe show them the Cornell method. If they had a test or if they had to read a passage and talk about what it was about, we might work with them on annotating and comprehension skills. So whatever they're doing in the classroom, we're translating that, to the skills that they're going to need when they're working with us in the Learning Center. So we also provide curriculum-based tutoring. So the specialist is reading the books that the students are reading, and we're watching the videos, and we're discussing, what's going on. And what this does is it keeps us abreast so that when a student comes in, we can do some pre-teaching. We can reteach things that are happening in the classroom or help clarify for the student, when they need assistance for stuff that's going on in the classroom. And interwoven in all this time with us is we're working on meta skills. So we're working on problem solving, resilience, and being self-aware of what's happening around them. And this is really helping them so that they can advocate for what their needs are. We have an open door policy for our students. So if they have a free block or a flex block or an X, they can always drop into the Learning Center, and there's a specialist that can kind of work with them on what's going on at that particular moment, or if they just need a quiet space to come and study. At nighttime, the Learning Center is open for students to come, and there's a learning specialist who's on duty. And we're always in constant communication with their teachers, with their families, with their advisors. So again, like I said, that wraparound supports, there are lots of people that are, looking out academically for the students. As far as all students, what's really wonderful here are those flex times and those X blocks that I talked about. Those are times that teachers are in their classroom and students can go into the classroom to get that extra help, that maybe they are starting a project or they're starting something, homework, and they just want that extra push, or they heard something in class but didn't have a chance for clarifications. This is a great time for them to get that extra help. We also, in the Learning Center, we are open if an advisor notices that a student of theirs needs some extra help. They can set up an appointment and we can talk with them and help them if they're seeing they're having a hard time managing work, or they're worried about studying for a test. So we can give them tips and helping them in that area. So we have what's called an A team, our academic team that Dr. Priest or Ben is ahead of. And so every 2 weeks we run a report to see how students are doing. So the grade books are kept current. And every 2 weeks he's looking at all the grades and how students are doing. So if he's seeing a student that is a C- or lower, during our study period, we ask them to go to a structured study hall, which is a wonderful time. Down here, I call it fortnight. So it's a time for students to focus, organize, be responsible with what they need to do in time management. So for students who are in the Learning Center, they would come down to the Learning Center during that time and work with a specialist. And for students who aren't part of it, they go to the library and they have our on-duty person is there to support them in the class, support them with the work that they have to do. So there's all kinds of different ways the students are getting support, but I think that shows kind of a wraparound that all academics, that there's lots of available resources for students, and we're always watching out that no one's slipping through the cracks or slipping through the cracks. We don't want that to happen. So I can answer questions too. I think I'm the last person, so Nunzi, you can take it back over.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you all so much. It's always so great to hear about our academics program here at Kents Hill. We do have some questions coming in, and please continue to type any that you may have. I will start with a question for Ben. Can you explain what dual enrollment courses are?
Sure. Basically, dual enrollment courses are alternatives to advanced placement courses. And what dual enrollment means is that students who are taking a dual enrollment class earn credit from Kents Hill School, but they also earn college credit from one of the universities that we are collaborating with. And there are all kinds of check stops in place to make sure that our teaching aligns with the curriculum and sort of the rigor of the college in question. We develop courses and course syllabi and assignments along with mentors who are from those universities. But the idea is that we have some course offerings here that are very challenging, but that don't necessarily follow along with a College Board approved curriculum. We're working with actual universities to design these classes and to teach these classes. And it's just a nice alternative, and it allows us to explore some areas that we wouldn't be able to do if we were just doing AP classes, College Board aligned curriculum. So we've got a couple of teachers, Jeff and myself, who are teaching dual enrollment classes right now. My class is College Writing Seminar. It is a dual enrollment class that I've designed in collaboration with the University of Maine at Augusta. And it's basically an introduction to several different kinds of essay writing that students might see at the college level. I taught college writing for years and years when I was doing my master's and my PhD. And so it's been a lot of fun to kind of come back to that model again and teach a writing class that introduces students to these really important essay writing and research skills. My kids are working on a big research project right now. But again, just to kind of get back to what I was saying when I started, I'm still looking for opportunities to explore topics of contemporary significance. So my college writing seminar this year, it's a writing class, but we're also thinking carefully about critical media studies all year. We're thinking about digital media, social media, and all of the interesting problems and possibilities that come along with consuming media in this age. That's not something that I could necessarily get to do in an AP class, But through my collaboration with the University of Maine at Augusta, I can make sure that my students get a good, rigorous introduction to scholarly writing and academic writing, while at the same time getting to explore some really interesting contemporary issues. And Jeff Munson is also teaching 2 college physics classes. We offer a dual enrollment anatomy and physiology course also through the University of Maine at Augusta. And in the past couple of years, we've developed and taught a wide variety of things based on student interest and student need. We've taught several business courses and leadership courses through Thomas College. I taught a college literature seminar a couple of years ago that was basically an introduction to British literary history. So dual enrollment classes basically allow us a little bit of creativity and flexibility, even as we are trying to design these very rigorous experiences for students. So that's basically dual enrollment.
Thanks, Ben. Martha, the next question I will send over to you. And the question is, what if a student wants to take a different language other than French or Spanish? Is there a way they can do that?
That is a great question. I know that I want to just preface this by saying that I am new. So I may happily defer to Ben on this, but it's my understanding that there might be an independent study option. I know that the head of the language department, DB, speaks, I don't know, 8 languages or something, and I don't want to speak for him and offer an independent study without consulting with him, but I should think that my experience with Kents Hill is being responsive to students' interests, right? So that there would be some conversations to be had and some logistics to be figured out, but I know that we would be open to that possibility. Did you want to jump in, Ben, at all?
Sure, and I'll just point out that, we try to meet students where they are, and we often have students who come to Kents Hill either with a strong interest in a language that's not French or Spanish, or in some cases, students who are coming to Kents Hill after completing the first 2 years of high school elsewhere, and maybe they have a couple of years of Latin or German or Mandarin under their belts already, and they want to continue that language study. And rather than just saying, no, you can't do that, what we've tried to do is provide alternatives, even when that means directing them to places off campus. And so we've had several students actually take either German or Latin through Brigham Young University's online program. And so that's an option too. We have worked with a couple of schools that have online programs to make sure that students can continue studying a language. And we've done that in a couple of other areas as well. We've allowed students and sort of facilitated the process, students who wanted to catch up on math in a particular area over the summer, who wanted to make sure that they got a calculus class before they graduated. We worked with that student and that family to make sure that they could do, for example, a 6-week Algebra 2 class over the summer so that they could then go on and take pre-calculus and eventually calculus. So if we don't have classes in our program, I can't promise that we'll be able to do it in every occasion, but we'll definitely work with you and we'll try to find something that will make for a good substitute.
Thank you both. The next question, I think I want to direct to Allison maybe for just a minute. Allison Lincoln-Rich is on this call. She's our Dean of Enrollment, and it's kind of a question about numbers for enrollment here. The question is, how many students will come in as mid-year transfer versus start in the fall? And in addition to the Learning Center, are there extra supports for those students since they missed orientation? Will they have extra help to integrate and be shown the ropes? So it's kind of like an Allison and Ben question here.
Yeah, I can start that off. So every year, Kents Hill has mid-year students. It's part of our program, and we are happy to have mid-year students. We're excited about students coming into the school at all different times. So we do a special orientation for mid-year students. So some will enter by themselves just as a one, they're coming in on this date and that's their start date. We'll also have students that will come in on January 4th, which is the beginning of our second semester. So they've done a semester somewhere else. They're ready to start the second semester. But no matter when they come, we create a little orientation plan for them. We set them up with student buddies. We make sure that they know where they're going. They have someone that's supporting them on campus. We have a meeting with their advisor so they can start that process of getting to know their advisor and building that relationship of a trusted adult. Where do I go when I need help? And then we also make sure that that student is integrated into an extracurricular activity. Again, in those three spaces, it gives students a great opportunity to start creating friendships and bonds that are so important to their success. So we absolutely do that. We do it we have a structured program for 2 or 3 days, and then those student buddies stay with them for a while just to continue to make sure they have that support. Again, the advisor also helps with that part to make sure that students are in the right classes. Ben can talk about how we create schedules for our new students, but we definitely enjoy having mid-year students come in.
Yeah, and I'll just add briefly that mid-year students, we start working with them as soon as they express interest in Kents Hill. Allison and I exchange a lot of emails and have a lot of short meetings where we get together to look at student transcripts, get to know you a little bit, and try to figure out what you've been doing academically. And we'll put together a sample schedule and send it to you via email, or we can even meet via Zoom and talk over what are the options. What does your ideal schedule look like? What are we able to do given our numbers and given where we are in the school year, that sort of thing. But it's a dialogue. We'll work with you to try to put together a schedule that reflects kind of your goals for the year and for the next couple of years, and make sure that by the time you start, you know what your classes are, you know where you're going, you have the materials that you need, and you'll be set up to kind of jump in and get into the swing of things.
Thank you both. The next question is for you, Ben. And the question is, how much help do students have? This is also a good question for Mary as well. How much help do students have managing missing assignments and or homework completion? Are the kids to be self-accountable and have natural consequences, or is there a checks and balance support encouragement in place? So that's a good one for both of you.
I would say yes. I would say this is, I think both of those things are true in the sense that every teacher at Kents Hill has to design a syllabus for each one of their classes, and they have grading policies that kind of lay out how grades are calculated. They establish, policies for late work, late assignments, that kind of stuff. We're pretty clear with students about when assignments are due and what our expectations are. We post everything to our Husky portal pretty religiously so that students always know where their assignments are posted, when they're due, what our expectations are. And we follow up quite a bit with our students who are missing assignments. As Mary mentioned when she was talking, I run a grade audit with my team every 2 weeks. I just ran one this morning and it turned up a list of names. There were 10 students who were missing assignments in their classes, and missing those assignments was pulling their grades down. And so what I did with my team was I turned that information into a roster for our structured study in the evening. And in about 45 minutes, those 10 students are going to report either to the Aiken Learning Center or the library, where they're going to have more direct supervision, where an adult is going to be, in effect, getting them set up for the evening and making sure that if they have outstanding assignments, that they're completing those before they, kind of go about the rest of their evening. And so at some point, we still have students who periodically, for whatever reason, are not getting the work done. And then, yes, of course, in addition to late penalties, sometimes students don't receive grades for assignments at all. But we definitely are a presence in our students' lives. We're reminding them quite often what they're missing and trying to make sure that while we give them the opportunity to get caught up, that ultimately they're responsible for running the show. And Mary, I don't know if you want to add anything, but.
Yeah, I would just add on the support side. Students know if they're not organized or if they're having a hard time getting things in, and teachers would notice it too. And that's when they would reach out possibly to us to say, I'm really bad at time management. I'm having a hard time figuring out how to get these assignments done. And then we can work with the students with that big picture, helping them find tools that'll help them not be late with their work, because when the snowballing happens, it really can be anxiety driving, and it just makes more things fall apart. So, we're here as a support system for students that need that.
Thank you. Next question is, Jeff, can you talk about science lab options?
Yes, if I can get my unmute to work. So I think all of our science courses are designated as lab courses. And labs are certainly going to be a huge component of everything we do. And, you know, a lot of them are traditional labs, traditional high school chemistry labs or biology labs, physics labs. But I think the best lab experiments and things that take place are the things that are happening in the outside of the traditional classroom. So all of the environmental studies labs take place out in the environment. And Ben was mentioning earlier that winter is approaching, and I have 12 sets of snowshoes so that students are, you know, able to get out still into the woods and do some of their tracking and some of their plotting that they're doing. But they'll also use that season to start their indoor growing and, you know, taking a look at stuff that they can do in a warm environment. We've got everything that is in technology, the robotics and computer coding even will be built around being in the lab and actually making something happen with that. I also find that in addition to, you know, I teach physics, and physics is yeah, a lot of it's about the math, but most of it's about the toys. And so being able to just have a student ask a question and immediately be able to just pop out of the mold and say, oh, I've got this really cool thing I can show you right here, right now, and I keep it in that closet over there, and then yank out something and do a quick lab with the students. You know, I can either demonstrate it or I can say, okay, here, you try it and you see what happens. That's the best part of teaching. So, you know, we've got 65-minute periods, and we can't spend 65 minutes just standing there talking at the students. That's brutal for everybody that's in that classroom. But the more I can have the students engaged and actually either seeing what it is that we have just talked about come to life, or give them a problem and give them something to do it with and let them figure out what it is I'm trying to tell them. That makes the best teaching in a science class, and we do that across the board in all the classes.
Great, thank you. The next question, and I guess anyone can jump in on this one, is how much homework is generally normal per class?
Well, I will say that on average, we shoot cumulatively for about 2 hours of homework a night. Sometimes our students are able to do that more quickly, in particular if they find downtime throughout the day, free periods or extra time in the afternoon. But we do have an evening study period that runs from 7:30 to 9:30. And the idea is that, with the exception of students who are taking a lot of very advanced coursework, so that means the AP and the dual enrollment classes that we mentioned before, they ought to be able to finish their assignments within that 2 hour period. We definitely find that some of our more advanced students, they're spending more time on schoolwork outside of class as they rack up some of these very difficult classes. But we do think that learning continues outside the academic day. We work hard to make sure that our homework is meaningful and then it's not just busy work. But we definitely have a structure in place to make sure that students are reading and writing, speaking and listening, studying content in their particular course areas, completing sample math problems, physics problems, and the like, basically every evening. And we run that evening study Sunday night through Thursday night. So it's definitely a part of our program. Increasingly as well, I will say that adults are taking on a very interesting role in our residential facilities. I guess you could call them not just mentors, but almost as instructors in meta learning. So in other words, we're having conversations with students about the learning itself. So I'm going to be on duty in Wesleyan Hall tonight, and before I will allow students to basically check out for the night and be done with their schoolwork, I'm going to have them open up their laptop and show me what work is coming up in each of their classes that's posted in the Husky portal. And we're going to have conversations about time management, about prioritizing, about trying to figure out what the rest of their week is going to look like. And I'll be asking them, are you really done with your assignments for the night? Can you get a jump on this particular reading assignment? Or I know that essay's not due for another 2 days, but couldn't you do some of it tonight? Couldn't you get a start on it, and so on? And so I think that in addition to just having a structure set up where students can work on homework, increasingly we're becoming guides who are trying to think with them about how best to tackle their time management and organize their workload. Obviously, anybody else on this call should jump in here if you want to talk more about homework, but that's my bit.
Thank you. Ben, I'll give this next question to you as well. And the question is, I see flex blocks on your schedule. What are those for?
Yeah, this is another exciting feature of our program. We've got 2 flex periods on Monday and Thursday, and on Tuesday, we have something called X block. And basically, this is time built into the schedule where in all 3 of these blocks during the course of the week, students can see their teachers to get extra help. And so we have a lot of time set aside where students can find teachers who are in their classroom. So Martha and I, we see each other several times a week. We're both in our classrooms during those flex periods or X blocks. And students come in to ask questions. Often they want clarification about a particular assignment. I know that just today, I think Martha was conferencing with several students who were working on an assignment for her. So this is time outside of our usual academic classes where students can get additional help if they need it. Flex period is different from X block because students can also use that time to hold club meetings. We have a wide variety of student clubs. And so flex is basically short for flexible. Students can use that time for a couple of other things as well. But I guess my short answer is that 3 times a week, teachers are in their classrooms and they're just waiting for students to come in and ask questions. This is, I suppose, just another form of the support that we offer to students outside of class.
I'll just pop in briefly and say I have found that invaluable as a teacher. Sometimes it's a time crunch and the paper is due the next day and the student is dying to meet with you. But for that scheduled, blocked free time, mutually free time, we may not share the same free period, and that's the only time that we can meet. I also really appreciate that it's 45 minutes. I rarely meet with a student for 45, so I can meet with 3 to 4 students during that time. For those students who can't plan ahead, the pop-in is possible. Right, I'm walking across campus and I think, oh, I should have seen Fortier about that. You know, they can turn around and know that I'm going to be in my office. So it has helped me. And I just wanted to loop back to the student who's missing a lot of homework. I have used that time to say, you will come and see me. So they're not making the appointment. I am saying, you know what, let's get you caught up. Come tomorrow. You will spend the 45 minutes and we'll just have you rifle through that homework as a way to sort of get back on track. So because it's built in and it doesn't change and it's not usurped by anything else, I find it something that both teachers and students rely on heavily.
Thank you. Next question is for Mary. And the question is, what if I just need help once? Is that possible in the Learning Center?
Definitely. I have a lot of students who will stop in during that flex or X block. And, you know, sometimes you can make an appointment and come in, but you can stop by. And if I'm free, they will come in and they might just have a paper coming up and they're feeling overwhelmed, or they've got 2 games this week and a test and another paper, and they just need someone to sit down and kind of look at their schedule. So yes, we have a lot of students that's open for everyone who one and done. Maybe it's just one time they need me, but usually if they've used me once, they might come back again for some other questions, which is fine.
Thanks, Mary. The next question is, in addition to sports, is there required physical education time daily or weekly, like a gym class?
I'll say no.
I'll agree. I will agree and point out that our athletic program definitely takes the place of that, where students are active for 1.5 to 2 hours every afternoon. I'll also point out though that we do have a sophomore health and wellness seminar where students are not only active, but they're getting an education on nutrition and exercise science. They also study human sexuality. They study mindfulness and sort of mental health preparation as well. So that's part of the program.
Right, and I think one of the important parts of the program, just aside from the whole athletic and structured thing, is the facilities that we have here on campus are available to anybody. And so picking up tennis, picking up basketball, running down and doing some skating in the winter, getting out on our ski hill, learning how to ski or learning how to cross country ski or snowshoe, getting out on the running trails, the biking trails, even getting down to the waterfront in the 2 or 3 weeks. It's actually fun to swim down there. All of that leads to students being able to really pick up on their own lifetime fitness skills and develop the passions for what they want to do. So maybe it's a pickup baseball or a kickball game in the spring, or tennis in the evenings with one of your friends. Students are all out and about all the time playing, and I think that's one of the really fun things that I've come to like about Kent Hill School.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. We just have a couple more minutes, and I want to give this one to Ben. And the question is, how do you create schedules for students?
Well, we only have 2 minutes, huh? It's a big process. It starts in the spring, and so it's really for me and for my team. It takes us about 6 months. It's a good long process. We start out by doing a couple of things in March and April. We put out a new edition of our curriculum guide. And so this is one of those documents that you can find on our website. It basically describes our graduation requirements. It describes special elements of our program. It lists all of the classes that we're going to offer for that next year, along with descriptions as well. And it sort of explains which classes fulfill which requirements, all of that kind of stuff. And we create that in consultation with teachers and department chairs. We put that out, and we also collect recommendations from teachers to try to figure out where they think the best place is to put each of their students in their respective subjects. And then basically in the spring, students sit down with their advisors, and advisors have this really key role to play, where they look at the curriculum guide and the graduation requirements, and they look at what the student's been recommended for, and they talk to the student about their interests, about what they want to study for that next year, whether it's their sophomore year or their junior year, whatever. And then basically what happens is that advisors work with the students to submit request forms. So a set of classes, let's say 6 classes and maybe a couple of alternates that best reflect what the student wants that next academic year to look like. And then starting over the summer, I sit down with my team, in particular, Dr. Wilson Onu, who's my Associate Dean of Academics, and we review all of this information, and we try to figure out basically how many sections of each class we can run, and we start playing around with different sequences of classes and try to figure out when they're going to run in the academic day. And then ultimately over the summer, we draft schedules, usually around the beginning of July, and we publish them to our portal. And so students at that point can log into the portal, and they can take a look at their sort of rough draft tentative schedule. And we have a whole, course change request process that we go through over the summer, where students can say, I've changed my mind, or I wasn't able to get this class, can I do this other class instead, that sort of thing. We continue working on the schedules over the summer, and then if students still want to make a change or two to their schedule, we have a 2-week add drop period when the school year first begins in September. And so it's a long process for us, but we take a lot of time with it, in part because we want to get it right. We want to make sure that every student not only graduates on time, but has a really, really varied experience at Kent Hill and gets to experience a lot of different kinds of things. And hopefully in the process, they get to do a couple of classes that reflect their own interests and their own curiosity. So it's a big process, but it's something that we take seriously. We don't just spit out a bunch of classes. We try to work with students and families to make sure that their schedule reflects their academic goals.
Thank you so much. So thanks everyone so much for joining us, and thank you to Jeff and Mary and Martha and Ben and even Allison for all contributing to this great conversation. Our next ToGather Tuesday is on November 30th, and we're going to talk about athletics. So we're going to hear from our director of athletics along with her team about all the exciting things happening there, especially as we go into winter. You know, everyone loves the ski hill here. So we hope you'll join us for that, and you can register on your portal or, you know, you'll get an email with instructions on how to register. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.